Hey, what's up, everybody? I had a long chat yesterday with my buddy JL Holdsworth, one of the founders of RPR, and we're actually going to try to recount some of that conversation on Sunday evening. So you'll start to see some things coming on social media that we'll do an IG live, just he and I, and maybe that'll be like my version of a podcast. I'm not sure. I remember years ago, Eric Cressy said some very, very positive things about my website, and it was basically the most basic, no frills website. And it wasn't necessarily because he didn't want to invest financially in it. I just don't really know how to do a lot of these things. So we'll do an IG live. We're going to talk about some things, and one of them is really stemming off of some of the things that were discussed in Division I women's basketball, where the Texas Tech program had some really unfortunate things happen, and how that relates to some of the things that are important to him, and also important to me in terms of methods that are being taught, and just some interesting conversation. And I'm sure it'll deal with a lot of other things as well. And one of those other things that we talked about that we'll talk a little bit about now is I just have to provide a big thanks for lots of folks that have checked out ACL in action. Again, when we talked about that before here, it's something that's really been in the works for many, many years. I talked about the original birth, I guess, of that idea with Vince Gabriel, and how that really was a big part of really building his business up in northern New Jersey. Ryan Zuver is someone that kind of rekindled it, where I remember he came to New York with the exact request of, I'm seeing these ACL girls, and they're just, they need rehab. They need something that they didn't have. And we mapped it out, and I said, all right, so we'll do this, and part of the deal is I'm actually going to turn this into a product at some point. So it took several years. For those, if you haven't gotten it yet, I'd like to just continue to make sure, because it will actually relate back to some of the things that JL and I are going to be talking about, but there's no physical therapy in this. So when we talk about an ACL rehab and recovery, there's a significant role for a physical therapist. There's a significant role for a great surgeon. There's a lot of things that are very, very important that this video series is not going to be discussing. So everything is certainly predicated on choosing a great surgeon, and indeed that surgeon has to have a good day. You can't always make chicken salad, depending on what the situation is. And I was recently on a phone call with some parents, with a really good friend of mine, a coach that I used to work with a lot in New Jersey, and thought the call went great. And they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this." And I said to my buddy, like, they're bizarre. Like that was bizarre. Like, we just spent 45 minutes trying to help these folks, and they're basically saying they're gonna go continue to work with this doofus for their son's surgery, which totally already did a surgery and it didn't go right. Why do you think he's going to do it well again? Anyway, got to pick a good surgery. We're not talking about any of those things on ACL in action, but we are going to fill in the gaps of what we see is young people that are getting discharged from physical therapy too soon, probably because of insurance, and we're also seeing a gap in the definitions of medically cleared, ready to train, ready to play, ready to practice, all of these different things, which I'm not sure all even have a very standardized definition. So a lot of times the solution is for these individuals, doesn't even have to be young people, to find a strength and conditioning facility to continue their rehab and recovery. And I think it's the best strength and conditioning facilities, the best strength and conditioning coaches are the ones that at least make sure they're not in over your head. The reality with an ACL rehab and recovery is that I don't think a competent coach is really in over their head, and I think you'll see that's my opinion. I feel very strongly a competent coach. Now, my idea of a competent coach might not be your idea of a competent coach, but you'll see that when you check out ACL in action. Of a lot of the things, if you're influenced from a strength and conditioning background that I am, you're going to see a lot of the same things, and it is not all inclusive. There may be other exercises that would fit into the different phases that I'm talking about, and there's certainly going to be more advanced exercises And it really is going to boil down to, is ACL just good training? I think putting this together is not an authority to make someone brilliant at coaching ACL, but it will give you an idea of a system that I would use. These are the exact exercises and the exact progressions that I would use. And we're coaching it with Tim Vallely. You know, a lot of times, sometimes it's hard. I can do some cool shit, but I can't do everything. And it's important to be able to watch someone do something at a very, very high level. And even some of the errors that he's making. Man, we filmed this over probably 5 or 6 hours. Fitness becomes something, and you start to see in the order of what we filmed, you'll start to see more technical errors in some of the neuromuscular things, such as landing and mechanical positions. Golly, you're really going to start to see a system here, and what's important, I feel, for a system to have value. Lots of people love using that terminology. I'm going to give you my definition. Mine will be right. Theirs is not. A system means you're going to miss as few things as possible. So I'd consider this a mini system. There's certainly a lot of things that are not being covered here that have a very, very significant piece to health, wellness, and athletic development. So we're going to call it a mini system where we don't think we're going to miss anything. Very, very important in the rehab and recovery of an ACL. And it's also going to allow for duplicability. So I really would love to see a lot of the physical therapy, even the chiro crowd, depending on how you have your practice set up. These are things that may be missing from a business level. Like, you can keep these people, you can hire a trainer and start to put systems in place, and then once you have a system that you think you trust, you allow that system to evolve and revolve and cultivate into some of the things that are unique to your practice. So I definitely think that this is, even though on one side I'm going to say that there's no physical therapy here, there's certainly reasons for these progressions and this system to be used in a physical therapy outfit. I mean, what I see as ACL rehab, particularly in these horrible commercial physical therapy outfits, is just a grab bag of some exercises that seem to answer questions to someone that has compromised lower extremity function. I don't see that there's boxes being checked. I don't see this having a long-term picture. I see them just doing a bunch of stuff. And I even see that at the professional sports level, in my opinion. So it's really not as much that those exercises are miserable, even though in the physical therapy space they usually are. Balance, reaching with the cones and the unstable. Yeah, it's just foolishness. Band walk for 3 hours. Anyway, what we're looking for at the pro sports level, I remember last time, I was with one of the teams and just watched what happened on the other side of the ballroom, and it's like just for hours, this kid was just doing really good exercises, and but there was no recipe. Like, I think you should be able to watch somebody train for a couple hours and kind of know what they're doing and where they're going. A system, an order, a progression, a regression, a lateralization. All the different things that I talk about, you're going to see in ACL in action, and you will be able to apply from a certain point on to all types. It could be ankle sprain. It could be somebody that is discharged from physical therapy from a hip procedure. A lot of these things are all going to be the same early on. When there's significant compromise, JL and I were talking about something that he would probably understand very, very well from the different positions that we would use in just lifting. Sometimes your knee and hip and foot are not loaded. But why would you not do those things? I think a lot of people that have followed me for a long time, I've said one of my favorites is, like, little girls that can do pull-ups don't sprain their ankles. And, well, if they have a big blown-up ankle, why are you doing pull-up? Well, you probably do have some kind of mechanical mechanism that if you can improve function of the lat with a posterior tilt, remember the lat becomes the IT band, et cetera, so you are going to get some function at the lateral hip that can prevent or limit lateral ankle sprain and certainly add to integrity. But the bottom line is that strong people don't get hurt. I mean, that's an okay thing. Fit people don't get hurt as much. And we feel like when and it's a big part of lateralizations, if you can't do something because of a certain joint, well, what else can you do? And it can be so freaking simple. And JL was saying, well, simple to me isn't always simple to you. No, it's simple to everybody, okay? Because now just watch. Just watch. And if you believe that a bench press is an important factor to athletic development, but your knee doesn't let you get into it, or you are concerned that the motion of the knee is not there because they're still in physical therapy and you're working together, well, why can't you do a floor press? Or why can't you put another bench next to the bench so your leg is long? And we can find a good use for that little stool instead of sitting on it and doing these ludicrous hamstring little scoots on. Let's put the stool next to the rower, and let's get after some rowing while the leg stays long. And if you track back when you saw Seth Rollins rehabbing his ACL in Birmingham, I was actually very surprised to see that, but I think he's probably just doing his own thing in the afternoon while he stands on a little balance board for 4 hours in the morning. These are options that you'll see, and I'm not giving anyone the authority or permission to do anything that they don't think they should be doing, but these are the things that I think a competent strength coach in a safe environment can be doing for people that are recovering from ACL, and we will probably minimize that no man's land, that gap, for when we should return to play. The last thing I want to say about ACL in action in terms of return to play is not much of a practical piece on the product, but towards the end we talk about the values of monitoring, even if it's just a heart rate monitor, where if we are having consistency in the types of exercises, the work to rest ratios, if you have the same coach when you go back to your sport, usually the same coach is using the same drills, and if you've got some before and after data, you may find that mechanically and even with force productions, even the keen testing on a force plate, you're looking good. You're looking that you're at that level, 85, 90, 95% of your previous levels, which should give you some authority to understand the risk reward for return to play. We should also be looking at physiological measures and internal load specifically. So we go back to that heart rate monitor, and if we're looking at the same level of performance from an external load, we covered this amount of ground doing this drill for this period of time, but your heart rate is plus 13. Well, that means you're working a lot harder than you should be, and you're probably not completely recovered. That should go into the blender. That should go into the equation of understanding the risk reward for what level of return to play. I think a lot of players can return to play with what I like to call hockey shifts, where maybe they're playing very, very short bouts and they come out, versus playing 9-10 minutes and they look good doing it, and then all of a sudden they pop their Achilles again. So I think that there's an understanding of work capacity relevant to the sport, and we can start to hone in on that as a measure as well in the strength and conditioning setting, where probably not, even though the therapists aren't going to know anything about that anyway, unless they're exposed to it in more progressive settings, it won't apply anyway. So again, I really would hope that a lot of physical therapists, that even if you're upset with some of the things that I'm saying, that's the reason you should get this. And I've always, you catch more flies with honey. However, I'm giving you an honest reason as to where ACL in action came from, and it wasn't my call. I wasn't the problem. These were coaches that came to me looking for solutions, and they were explaining these situations, that because I would usually see the athlete for a couple times just to understand where they should be on these progressions. And I'll insist, my progressions are no better than yours, but sometimes there's going to be a lot of value in seeing how someone organizes something, how someone systematizes something, and I think that's what you're going to get out of ACL in action. So I don't know that that'll be the extent of our talk on Sunday with JL and I here on Instagram Live, but I think we'll get into some other things that are part of what motivates me, and one of the many different types of definitions to train equals rehab. So hopefully you'll start to see some of those posts 6 p.m. on Sunday. ACL in action, charlieweingroff.com. I think we're still in this early discount phase, and everything else on there. The folks that were at PB Perform Better Brazil, and also our summer series for Perform Better that we did over the last 2 weeks. There's some extra discounts. I hope you're all able to check that out. Those discounts are only available to those folks. If you decided not to sit and listen to me yap for a couple hours, then all right, we maybe we'll find some other discount down the road. So hopefully you're able to find value and able to turn a dollar out of what you choose to spend on charlieweingroff.com. Well, that's all I got for today. And if anybody's seen a leprechaun, say yeah.